Okay, welcome people to the February 23rd Budget Finance meeting. We're holding this joint meeting tonight with the selectmen for the purpose, the first of two nights of reviewing the various items in the budget. First order of business is for the Budget Committee to approve the minutes from our prior meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from the January 12th meeting.
Second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, just a couple of things. There's this is not a voting meeting. The purpose of the meeting tonight is for hearing the inputs from the various departments that we have on the list tonight as to their budget requests. We'll hold a meeting next Monday night to hear the ones on the ones we're not hearing tonight, and then we're going to be holding a workshop to start trying to get down through the numbers and whatnot. But there'll be no votes taken tonight on any of the items on there, and no real moves to adjust numbers, but it's more to gather information. And just kind of another item of clarification. What we have here is truly a draft budget. This is not the final budget as gleaned out and taken through by the town manager, but more his direction was to go out to the departments, get their inputs on what they felt they would need or whatever, and to present that to us so we'd have an overall view of what they're asking for, so that when we then get into the deliberations, we'll have a better idea of what was asked for when we start looking at any adjustments that we need to make. So without further ado, the items that we're going to be looking at tonight is the library, the insurance account, general assistance, technology, fire, EMS, infrastructure, solid waste, county tax, revenues, and the TIF budget. So the first item is to hear from the library on what they're asking for and what their plans are. One other thing, if people could silence their phones or put them on silent or whatever, just so we don't have ringing going off during the meeting, would be much appreciated.
Good evening. On behalf of the staff, volunteers, and trustees of the Raymond Village Library, I want to thank you for honoring our request to appear early in the budget process. First of all, I would like to introduce all the members of the board who are here, the Board of Trustees. If you would please stand, the library board, Emily and Spencer, Jessica, Whitney, Ben, and of course our director, Sally Holt. And then if any of the people here who've come to hear this are here for the library, would you please stand too? I know maybe some of the youngsters won't last as long as the meeting, so. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And at the risk of stating the obvious, we are here as advocates. We're advocates for the library, the staff, the volunteers, and the trustees. We're advocates for the library's patrons, for all the full-time and seasonal residents of Raymond and surrounding towns who access the library either in person or online. And we're advocates for the partnerships formed among citizens, businesses, nonprofit organizations, the schools, and the Raymond Town departments and the library. I believe Kim handed out a packet to you tonight that has a lot of the information in it that we previously sent before this meeting, with the addition of many letters in support of the library, which is kind of a unique addition to the packet. And when you have a few minutes, obviously after the meeting, it's kind of fun to read through them. They're all very well written. They have their own stories about why the library is important to them. Some of them even state, one that I can remember states that the reason for staying in the community was for the library. She was at about the point to leave the community, but then realized the connection the library has with the community was so important that she decided to stay. And though the library now exists because of the dedication and hard work of longtime residents, staff, volunteers, and the trustees who came before us, the library is at a point right now where advances in technology, social media, patron requests for increased services, programming, and space for community events and activities, available support from the Maine State Library, particularly in areas of technology and materials access, and results of 2 recent surveys, one conducted by the library in 2013 and the other one recently conducted by the town. All of these things mandate that we change not only the perception, but the reality of the term village library, from that of being localized and close held to village library meaning global village. A major role of public libraries is to responsibly access, process, and facilitate the sharing of information from and among all available resources, whether they be local, regional, or global. Public libraries are hubs in the communities they serve and are uniquely qualified to manage any and all information requests that come their way, often filling needs not publicly accessible anywhere else. And a really good example of that are the public access computers at the library, often used by those seeking employment and have no access to computers other than at the library. Libraries also provide lifelong community and personal connections. Public libraries are a necessary part of every community, championing economic growth and educational excellence, deserving of strong financial support from the municipalities in which they are located. I'd like to introduce our co-chairman, Emily Allen, who will take it from here.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily Allen from Haydenbrook Road. I'm the current co-president with Elisa of the Board of Trustees of the library. I think my story is similar to other ones you'll read in your packets tonight. New to town, I began using the library for books and information and that sense of community that originally brought me to Raymond. I started coming more in earnest when I had my first daughter and discovered a lovely group of people at the weekly story times. Almost 2 kids later, I've become more and more involved in library activities, from bringing the kids to Dr. Seuss night and the pajama story times, to creating Christmas gift baskets and checking out hundreds of books, movies, and book tapes. The Raymond Village Library is not only a place to get books, or to use a computer, or to go to story time, or to meet new people, or research a question, learn a new hobby, find tax information, meet an author, or be welcomed as a newcomer to Raymond. It is all of these and so much more. We are a small town, young and old brought together as a community by our library. The Raymond townspeople have spoken through strong library support on the Raymond Town Survey, as well as through dynamic statistical growth since the hire of our professional library director. We feel the time is right to ask the town to increase their contribution. This will also bring our library-town relationship into closer alignment with area towns. And you can see all of that detailed in the charts in your budget proposal. In order to meet the demand of townspeople, we need a trained, efficient, adequately paid staff and accessible digital presence. We need to be able to afford to get out there and develop deeper local connections. We believe the return on investment in the library not only benefits each and every townsperson, but makes Raymond a more attractive community, a more inviting place to live, with more to offer. And the Board of Trustees are here. We're ready to answer any questions you might have for us. Thank you.
Hi, B.
I'd just like to ask anybody from the board, is the library a 501c3 organization?
I can answer that question. Yes, they are actually a 501c3 organization, but per definition, that's any organization that receives 33% of its funding from either small donors public government funds, it can be either one. So while we are considered a nonprofit private organization, we're still publicly available and publicly funded.
So any private donation to the library can be treated as an income tax deduction.
That's correct, they're made tax free, and they're for the donor a deduction.
So if the town contributes money, nobody gets the benefit of that. Is that correct?
I would say that that's correct at all. If the town contributes, everyone benefits from that.
I'm talking about income tax.
As a contributor, your income tax, your ability to deduct as a contributor is what you're talking about.
Yes, and if the town contributes, which it does, it appears to me no one gets the benefit of any income tax deduction with that individually.
I suppose you could look at it that way, if the town doesn't have the option to make
So,
income tax savings.
that-
If they
Well,
just
no,
have an
no,
income.
that's,
That's not
no,
true.
because you get your federal,
Right, right.
your federal property tax
That's correct.
deduction. So it
so
becomes,
what,
it becomes part, it becomes,
is that just,
if you're itemized,
it increases my property tax deduction.
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Got it?
I just have a question. You were mentioning bringing the, I guess, technology to current standards. Can you be a little more specific on that? How that would, what would change?
What we are hoping with the increase in the support to hire an off-site tech support that's not affiliated with the town. The town has been burdened with our entire tech support for the last few years and have stated that they support our idea of going to outside help because in this day and age, technology is expanding so quickly, the library has to keep up with it and offer everything that everybody needs from us. And in order to do that, we need really quick response time, and we need to just have somebody whose entire focus is on the library and the library's needs and the growth in the technology field. So that's what we're hoping to do, is hire a technology support person.
May I speak?
Yeah.
What I also wanted to mention is we have something called a COHA circulation system. It's an open source system. And for technology support, we need to have someone that's going to keep on top of upgrading the system and understanding different things that are coming down the road as far as technology with our circulation system. Much larger systems have, libraries have something called Minerva, and all of that is taken care of through Infinet, Main Infinet.
Sally,
Yes.
can you host, Dominic, can you hear that, or should we have,
I can hear it, it's not the best.
Pass
it around. Just so folks
Pass it around.
watching at home can
that
make
way
sure
any,
we hear.
anyone on the outside can hear it as well?
Absolutely, thank you so much.
With the COHA circulation system, we need someone to keep up on the literature that comes with COHA so we can update our system on a regular basis. Larger libraries have something called Minerva. They have enough money to spend to go through something called Main Infinet, where they pay a fee each year, and through Main Infinet, they manage the system. We do not have the expertise to be able to do that in the library. We do manage the circulation system, the statistical information, that sort of thing. But myself and my assistant, we do not know how to do reports. We're hoping with the technology person coming on board, that person will show us how to do reports. It's highly technical for us, and we need some support. We also had a CPU in the library go out recently, needed the battery changed, and I did figure out how to do it, and I'm happy to do that. But there are so many things that need to be maintained on a daily basis in the library. And I'm trying to think the other thing about technology that I was thinking about. You know, we're also looking at our e-books, Overdrive, maybe in the future adding e-books. We're looking at maybe getting onto something called Main School Library Network, as opposed to being on Time Warner, because we get some benefits through them. We need somebody to liaise with, is that how you pronounce it, Emily? Liaise with, for example, Kevin and Lori, who work for the town, because a lot of things are on the town server. Koha right now is on a server at the town, and we have Time Warner through the town. And actually, the tech committee, the tech department in this town has helped this library for many, many years. But the time has come for us to kind of stand on our own and become more able to handle things technologically. And they really need to focus on what they need to do for the town. And as you know, there's so many things that they need to do. I don't know how many people went on the tech tour.
Can I clarify
Yes.
this a little
Yes,
bit? Okay.
go ahead.
The town, Kevin Woodbury, and I do the tech support for the town. We, as part of my contract, we do not support the library. What the town provides is the technical infrastructure, servers, networking, and stuff like that, free of charge to the library. My son and I provide, and Lori, provide free, time as a volunteer to do all the infrastructure technology work. And that's where there's a huge difference between infrastructure technology and application technology. And that's what Sally's talking about, the applications that they need to run at the library, in addition to people, helping the patrons with how to use the technology. We can't do that as a volunteer. It's hard enough to try to keep up their base level of infrastructure, keeping the servers running, we do the backups, the security, the networking, the antivirus, everything. We do all of that, and we keep all that stuff running on a Windows domain for them. So we try to keep separate from, again, not part of our contract for the town. So we're not using my time as a contractor for the town. It's just volunteer time. But they desperately need somebody to help them.
So is there, whenever this is providing services for a town, isn't some sort of process supposed to go out for people to submit bids and things like that? Isn't that kind of thing here? As far as, estimates of how much that would cost?
Going forward, or?
Like, I think you have it here on, what you're talking about, the support would be $1,800 a year.
We've spoken with a guy who does it for other area libraries, and he charges $150 a month, which is what we factored in. He does $50 an hour. He does a lot of different arrangements. So we went with $150. That's what he has with Harrison Public Library.
Oh,
Right. He does the Koha support, which is the library management system. And he's a really good, I know him personally because I worked with him at LLB. He's a great guy. But what we need is somebody in addition to him to be, on staff in the library to help people out using things that, it's every day. People come in, they don't know how to use the wireless, they don't know how to use the software in the computers, they don't know, And then Sally, like you said, the Koha system, somebody needs to train you and set up the reports. And there are tons and tons of things that Koha can do for the library that haven't been implemented because it's such an expansive system that they haven't had a chance or the expertise to use it. And that's beyond, that's beyond my expertise
And
too.
the person that we are hoping that will come in will be able to help us with that. He's been helping all the area libraries, and we really, really need his help.
He's very, very sharp, Steve.
But
yes.
in the library, we help people all the time with resumes, with how to get to, for example, tax forms. You can't get tax forms really any longer, and people come in not knowing how to use the computer. We help them with that. People don't know how to attach documents to their resumes. We have people coming in all the time. We do that in the library, and we can troubleshoot, little things. I shouldn't say little things, because everything is a big thing. But we are not technology experts. We wouldn't even try to think about doing what Kevin does. I'm sorry, Kevin, that doesn't even need to be said. But we really need help with the applications, which is what you're talking about. And we've kind of been stumbling through on our own, and we do get support from Lori and Kevin when they're able to give us support. So in short, that's the answer to your question.
Thank you.
Well, that wasn't very short, but it is the answer to your
Yeah,
question,
it
and I'm
is.
hoping we'll happy to answer more.
Thank you.
So, Paul, may I just quick follow-up? Sorry, I was a little bit confused about the one part of the response. The $1,800 that you're requesting for the technical support, is that for the person who is going to do this work offline, or is that somebody who's going to be in the library doing things on a daily or some semi-daily basis?
We're coming up with a plan of what to do. The first thing we need to do is we need to help him go through our reports that we use to find out information. And we have to clean up the reports because the reports are from 2 or 3 years that have kind of been built up. Then we have to ask him to help us put together specific reports. So that's what he's going to be starting out with us. At some point, we're thinking about going to the main school library network in time for to get internet access. He will be probably helping us with that. So basically, he's just going to be helping us clean up our Koha database and help us and actually teach us how to do reports. So that's what he's going to be starting with us.
And 36 hours is going to be enough time to do that?
I think it's an excellent start. I think it's a good start. We've learned a lot from other librarians in the area, and we've taught ourselves quite a few things. But yes, I think that it will be a good start and get us going because we're going to learn. He's going to teach us things, and I think he can do it.
It might be a little heavy weighted at the beginning.
Right.
But we'll pick up things up as it goes along, and it'll help us develop a long-term tech plan so we can have a guideline ahead of us.
Brian?
Sorry, because this kind of is a follow-up question. So you guys have done a phenomenal job in terms of, first of all, documentation, setting up the reason, the rationale, recognizing that this town generally doesn't look at 50% increases in budgets on a regular basis. You've been very smart about getting folks out to talk about it, and I think it's a great documentation. Question I have for the board, looking at the strategic plan, this 50% increase, is this a 1 year 50% increase that you then expect to be at that new rate at or around? Or is your strategic plan one that's saying 50 plus another 50 plus another 50%? The reason I ask that question is it helps us understand, for example, in the technology area, if this is just the first domino and there's going to be additional dominoes that are going to follow, what are the size of those dominoes?
I think we've been hesitant in the past few years to ask for more money from the town. And I think at this point we need to accept the fact that we need to get to a certain level that's being demanded from us, from the townspeople. If you look at the statistics and the increase in circulation and programming and everything like that, it really demonstrates how much people are using us. And now we need to pay our staff an adequate wage, give them enough hours that, some of them are already working, and get this technology on board so that we can have a better development system in place to raise some of our own funds as well. Right now it's a lot of Excel spreadsheets and stuff, but we're hoping to get an organized donor program online. So all of those steps in this year will get us to a certain point where we believe we'll be right-sized. And obviously after that there will be incremental things that come along, but not anything to this extent.
This is kind of a 1 year jump to get us to that level that we need to be in order to provide the services.
That's what
that
we
are being
believe.
provided. Thank you, appreciate it.
Is there any contemplation going forward into any user fees or anything like that to help offset anything?
As a public library, we are open to everyone without a fee at all.
There are some libraries in the country who do charge for cards, library cards. But since we are truly a public library, we are open to everyone whenever we are open, all ages, all questions. No, we do not anticipate ever charging fees for what we do. As a matter of fact, previously we did have to charge for interlibrary loan when it was a matter of materials being mailed. But now that we have the wonderful van service from the Maine State Library, which is actually a van that goes around to the various libraries in the state, delivering and picking up books to be spread around the state among libraries. Is that?
That's great. For free.
For free, yes. For free.
Bob?
I see in your proposed budget, technical support, it's a new line item of $1,800. And that's the technical support. You're looking to have a guy come in for so many dollars per month to help you with technical support. Looking beyond that, total payroll expenses, we're looking at an additional $8,000 of payroll. And I'm just like to know where those additional dollars, is it more hours, is it more staffing? But basically address the additional $8,000 in the payroll expense.
Can address that question. Absolutely. We're looking for additional hours
Introduce
for...
yourself, please.
Sure. My name is Ben Crowder. I'm a lifetime resident of Raymond. We're looking to add hours to the staff that exists and or possibly add a part-time position. We haven't decided which way we're going to go yet. It'll be one or the other, not both. In addition to that, we're also looking to increase the wage that we pay the staff members that we currently have. At the current time being, we pay our employees less than someone working as a cashier at Walmart, doing a technically skilled job. Not that that's not a valuable profession, but these are people that are doing a technically skilled job and assisting people in trying to learn and provide access. We feel that they're dramatically underpaid. They haven't gotten a significant raise of any kind in some time, and we haven't asked the town for any additional funds for that in some time. So we're trying to catch up. It's a sort of branches off the question that I believe Mr. Walker asked, insofar as that we're trying to catch up a gap here. This isn't something we're going to come back every year and say, yeah, we want to give a raise the same amount we gave last year, but we're trying to get to a more reasonable level.
Any questions? Marco?
I have 3 issues, and I don't expect the answers now. I'm just gonna put them out there, and maybe in the next week or so, you can get back to us and let us know what it is. First one is fundraising. You've gone from 36,000 to 33 to 29 to 30, and now there's a line item for $8,000 increase. I'd like to know how you justify that $8,000 increase.
I can actually address that.
You go right ahead.
I'll do my best.
All right.
Behind you.
Yep.
It's just one sentence in there, and it needs explanation.
That is, the fundraising is actually our goal.
Right.
We're increasing our fundraising goal by $8,000. We felt that if we were asking the town for more money, that it would be incumbent upon us to work a little bit harder to try to raise some more money for the library. One of the things that we're doing is we're looking into acquiring a customer relationship manager, a CRM, which will help us manage our relationships with donors and patrons outside of the circulation system. We've had contact with some professional fundraisers and people that have met with the board, and we're working to bring our fundraising up to current best practices. We're working on a plan, but we really feel like streamlining the annual appeal and being more effective and efficient will allow us to raise additional funds using some knowledge that we've acquired. I don't know if that helps.
It's kind of vague. I was looking for something a little more solid.
Fundraising is a tricky thing.
Okay.
I mean,
So
I'd
what
love
I'm
to.
hearing is your annual appeal will be increased.
Our annual appeal will be
Okay.
increased. One of the things we're doing is also looking to increase personal relationships with donors and cultivate larger donors, which is something that hasn't happened, I don't think to a real great extent in the past, but this board is committed to trying to do that.
So, Marshall, just to kind of quantify that a little bit, were you looking to see if they were adding a new fundraising event?
No,
in,
there's a
or
line
just-
item here,
No,
8,000.
I knew that, but, or, you know, something in addition to just trying to increase the regular, or if they were
I'm
adding
just
something
curious on
different?
how we're gonna
How,
get $8,000.
how are we gonna
How are you
raise
gonna
an
get
additional
that?
$8,000?
Right, yeah, that's it.
We're gonna work our.
It's a big question.
Work your books out.
The second issue I have is, if you take a look at this chart that you presented on the bottom of page 56, if you extend that out to the whole chart, I looked at payroll expenses versus total expenses. And Raymond is at 74% going to 75%. And 4 of the libraries that are on this list are 65 or less. So I think your numbers are a little bit higher on the payroll than what the average is here. You may want to take a look at that particular form again, the state form. take a look at that and see where you fit in there. And,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
this particular form is a cut from a form that's provided on the Main State Library Statistics, and it's out there. I'll give you the website if you wish.
It's actually in all of your information.
Okay, but again, looking at payroll expense to total expense, Raymond's at 74, Naples is at 53, Harrison is at 57, for example. And I think that Raymond has always been high on the salary to expenses. I think that needs to be addressed. Okay. And take your time.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The thought on that is because they have a larger overall budget. They're paying their staff, their staff expenses may not be any higher than Raymond's are, but their overall budget is higher, so certainly their staff payroll percentages are going to be lower compared to their overall budget than ours are, because our overall budget is so small in comparison.
Okay, I am not talking about overall budget. I was careful about that. I'm talking about total payroll expenses to total expenses. It's got nothing to do with budget. So take a look at those numbers and see what you think. Total expenses is going from 64,000 to 104,000. Am I reading that correctly? That's a pretty big increase. So maybe you can justify 64,000 in the budget period 10-11 to now 104,000, which is a 63% increase over 5 years. I think I'd like an answer on that at some point in time. It doesn't have to be tonight. And I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, good.
I did. I put them out there.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, yeah, Pete? I don't know if you have the same page numbering as I do, but on page 58 of the packet that came from the town manager, which is all library information, under income, there's an investment income line, which in fiscal year 13-14 was just under 7,600. For this current budget, year 14-15, you upped it to 6,000, and you continuing 6,000 in the proposed budget. I'm wondering where the investment income comes from and why that can't be perhaps improved.
I can address that question. My name is Spencer Hathaway. I live in Wyndham, but thank you for having me tonight. Our investment income comes from our key investment account, which we hold our savings funds in. It's invested partially in fixed income, partially in stocks. The reason we can't really budget to increase it this year is because, as you probably know, we budgeted a deficit of about $11,000 last year. And so, in taking into account the decrease in the overall funds that we have to invest, we brought that down a bit, or held it steady to the budget last year.
But you did do better the prior year.
Yes, last year we did do better. The stock market, as you know, in 2013 improved drastically over 2012. We can't really predict what the stock market's going to do this year, and given the decrease in overall funding we're investing, we just figured we'd hold it at 6,000.
How is it doing year to date?
Pretty well.
So do you think you'll exceed the 6,000?
I don't, because we just took a distribution of $11,000 out of our account to cover last year's deficit.
One other quick question. Under the line which says, provide reorganized fundraising efforts with means for development, marketing, and publicity. On one page it's at 2,000, and on the other page it's at 1,000. And perhaps I'm just not interpreting it correctly.
It's 1,000 under the development, fundraising, and marketing expense line item. And then if you look at the one right above it for annual appeal expenses, it is $900 more.
Okay, so that's what it You just shifted it.
Yes, it's because they're both part of our development plan. We broke out annual appeal because it's such a big part.
Okay, I just saw the same words there and
Right.
didn't realize. Thank you very much.
Other questions? Thank you. Move on to the insurance account.
Anybody can leave,
Okay.
you guys can leave.
I don't have a whole crowd here for insurance.
Oh, in that case.
So it's just me, I think. I don't know. Want me to use the room to?
Yeah, let me.
Perhaps you can
Nope.
wait a minute, let things clear out? Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate the show of support.
Can you tell me why that's not 60,000?
It's because we wanted to delineate at the bottom how much we were asking from the town.
Thank you.
It must be on the next page. We just
Have a
wanted
good
to
evening.
highlight that.
Okay, we can keep things moving along. We can probably get out of here tonight.
Well, that's not fair.
All right, well, I've spoken with Rolf earlier, and I think the focus is going to be on the question and answer, not on the presentation selling part. So the insurance account is a total request of $483,621. It's up $11,124 or 2.35%. The increase is primarily in Social Security, 5952, and the ICMA Retirement Corporation match, which is 4697. Both of these, of course, are wage-driven. We're budgeting our health insurance flat. The health insurance program, in terms of cost containment, has been successful. I think I can tell you that on behalf of the employees, though, it has been a bit chaotic in terms of keeping consistency with providers. We've had, I believe, three different providers and 5 different programs in 5 years. So that's been difficult with the private sector insurance, keeping some stability. Getting on a basis that's with our fiscal year has been next to impossible. We finally achieved that last year, only to discover that when the program expired, we could not get onto another program that was aligned with our fiscal year. It seems that's a very rare item. So we're still struggling with that, working with that, trying to balance the cost effectiveness that's been achieved with the quality that we seek for our employees, and that's a real challenge and continues to be one that we grapple with every year.
You won't find one anymore.
Right, and that's my worry for our renewal.
Until you get above 150, you won't find one anymore. Marshall?
I gotta ask you one. The appropriations report for December, do you pay these bills monthly, the insurance bills monthly? Is it a quarterly payment, or is it semi-annual? How are those paid?
Is Nancy?
Depends on which insurance you're talking about. If
Let's
it's
talk
health,
about,
it's
let's talk
monthly.
about health and dental.
That's monthly.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy.
Peter?
I'll say I'm more about that. Public officials liability insurance, is that something that you go out for bid on, or is it?
Yes, we as a non-MMA town, we've privatized all our insurance. So go out to bid is something that Nancy does pretty much annually. I'm not certain she wants to do it again this year, but we've been doing that pretty much every year, trying to get the best pricing we can. But we go to bid, yes.
And who does that cover?
Covers all of the officials of the community.
Okay. Even us?
Yes.
As elected, yeah.
Are you worried?
Not a bit.
Not anymore. Other questions?
Ralph?
Bonnie?
In any of the insurance policies that you have, do you take advantage of the one-time yearly payment, so you'll pay less
Yeah.
than doing it monthly, weekly, monthly or quarterly? A lot of times they break them out, and if you pay them every quarter, you pay X amount. If you pay it yearly or annually, you pay a little bit less.
I haven't noticed that they've offered us that, but I'll certainly look into it.
That's a great idea. We could
It's a
ask
small
them.
percentage,
We could
but
ask
it's-
them if they'll do something like that, sure.
Maybe it'll take advantage of it a little bit.
Is that something you see in the private sector?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Questions? Okay, thank you. GA.
General assistance was $6,000 last year. We're asking for $6,000 again. As I have pointed out every single year, this is an exceedingly low amount. You know, we are reimbursed 50% through the state budget, and so basically that's what we raise. And we also have the Raymond Community Assistance Fund, which stands right now at $23,278. I think Brian asked the question, what happens if you get excess GA? And the answer is you pay excess GA. We don't. If it's something that's GA qualified and is appropriate for GA, we would continue to pay out of GA even if we overdrafted it. However, I wouldn't be crazy about that because I have discretion over the community assistance funds, but because they are more limited in nature, depending upon the generosity of the folks in the town, and people have been generous, they continue to contribute, and people listening, if you want to continue to do that, that's much appreciated. But we try to be very careful about how we use that money and not use it for your regular GA qualified applicants. So if they're qualified for GA, we tend to do it through GA.
Questions on GA?
Ralph, one quick question, sorry, it just came to mind. First of all, thank you very much. I was with the Troublemaker, put out a lot of questions, and you guys were amazing about getting answers back, so thank you to the town staff. Again, unbelievable response. When the reimbursement comes in from the state for the 50%, does that go back into, where does that kind of find itself?
It goes into a different account, doesn't it? Miscellaneous revenue. Thank you. So it doesn't go back in. That's a good point. But if you look at it in a sort of macro way, I suppose you could say, even if we overdrafted, the theoretical is 9,000.
That's what I was thinking.
But does not go back in as a revenue. We don't do that. We stopped doing that some years ago. We're on a gross budget basis versus a net budget basis. So thank you, Nancy.
So if the town is expending $6,000 in the GA, really, because of the reimbursement, it's really more in the 3,000 range.
No.
No.
12,000. It's
12,000. Okay, it's 12,000. Okay, okay, good. Thank you.
So the GA questions? Technology.
I think our videographer is going to answer these questions. Station manager, rather, or network administrator and station manager are going to answer these questions.
I handed out some backup materials on what we do on my side of the technology. Did everybody get one of those? And that's not anything to do with the budget, that's just to show you, give you an idea of what we do and our projects we have going on and what we support. So everybody on the, I gave a presentation to the selectmen about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and this is the same backup information that they received. So you all got one of those packets like that. So if you have any questions on the infrastructure side of things, go ahead and ask those. If not, on the station application side of things, like Dominic, I supported him as an infrastructure person, but he does the application of the station.
I see, I'm gonna go right into CIP, because your budget, recommended budget is only 4% higher than last year's fiscal year budget. But this is really the first year that you've looked to have CIP monies. This, according to the paperwork I have, it's the first time that you've asked for CIP.
Yeah, this is for the station you're talking about.
Correct.
Right. This, well, this equipment is, it was 10 years old. And that's a long time for, actually, I can let you go ahead. I should go ahead. I'll butt in.
Yeah, no, it's definitely some aging equipment.
Well, we're not doing, just so you clear, we're not doing CIP tonight, but I think what he's asking about is because part of their budget really got put into,
Right,
for
okay,
long-term,
okay,
into there,
sorry.
so he's asking a question in regards to part of their request there. So
Thanks.
that's-
What we looked at was, do we want to, we're on 30-year-old technology, even though the equipment's only 10 years old. It's mostly analog equipment for the station. So we're talking about, instead of replacing, we've had several pieces fail, and we're limping along now, and other things are getting ready to fail and failing intermittently. So the point is, do we want to start replacing these with analog old equipment, which is very expensive,
Almost nearly as expensive
that's
as the
doing the new thing, or we're gonna go to what's called IPTV, which is basically the current standard for television broadcasting, which is basically, you're doing your broadcasting over the internet, not really broadcasting. So, that's what, and we're doing that now through some, some hokey methodology. But, we are at the point where we do need to address this issue, or the station, if we have a major equipment failure, the station will shut down. That's up to the town whether they want to support that or not, or invest the money in the older equipment, which is, I don't think, a wise choice.
Is this gonna be a one-time
Again, like
request,
it was
CIP?
back when we started first, it's gonna be a one-time shot. And actually, when we get into this level of technology, it becomes in a zone where we can maintain it ourselves. It's not proprietary equipment anymore, it's all based on computers now and networks. So this is something that we can maintain, we can do the parts repair and stuff like that. Before, all this equipment is proprietary equipment, analog equipment that we could not repair ourselves.
So with the newer equipment, instead of paying $15,000 to replace an entire box, now you can pay $1,000 to replace the part that's broken rather than having to replace the entirety of it. And there's several components that are around $15,000 a piece. So if you stay with this type of equipment setup, when it fails, you have a very large cost rather than just a piece of it cost.
So this is mostly, and I'm just looking at it now, mostly hardware?
Yes.
Upgrades?
Well, there's some software to it because we're essentially building what we need to the point where we can replace it in that piece part banner if it breaks down. So there is some software cost in there, but it's a one-time cost of software. So when we replace the hardware, the software will go to the next piece of machinery.
If you got 10 years out of this equipment, how many years are you going to get out of the new equipment?
Personally,
computers, we
I know.
only, and on my side of the
There's
things,
no
we budget
guarantees.
for 5 years, is what we say.
Exactly.
A desktop will last. Servers, we're doing longer than that, so that the server equipment we get, if we get a new one, it'll cost more. If we get a used one like we do, we buy all of our servers on eBay now. And they're from 10 years to maybe 6 years old when we get them. But we get 5 to 10 years out of them. And we've done that consistently. And we pay about 20% of the price of a new server. And so we're getting amazing functionality when we buy. And we try to do that. So when we buy the server for this, we're hoping to do the same thing. We're hoping to get a minimum of 5 years on that server, but if it breaks, we can always repair it, which we do all the time for our stuff that we have in-house now.
And what you have to look at is just because it lasted 10 years doesn't mean we should have pushed it to 10 years. So if you wait that long to replace a piece of equipment, you risk having that equipment fail on you in action rather than having it on a logical upgrade path.
And one of the nice things about doing this, the servers we buy they have hot swappable power supplies, redundant power supplies, redundant memory, redundant, disks. So they don't, if something fails, it doesn't completely fail. You can replace that stuff, and most often you can replace it, hot swap it, so you don't see any outage. This type of equipment, when it dies, and you're down.
And with the two primary components, both of the technicians on each end, whoever supports them, have suggested that they're out of date. They should have been replaced already. So we've worked through all the technical problems. Any problems that are ongoing, they can't solve them. So.
Please, Marshall. There's a real difference in my mind between Channel 2 and Channel 3. Anything you're talking about addressing that issue, Channel 3 is really poor quality at times. I realize that's
They both come from the same piece of equipment, but some of the footage comes from a different studio.
Okay.
So what you're seeing is things that are
so
shot.
that basically is beyond your control.
Yeah,
is it?
it's on the other town side is shooting that. Whatever looks a little bit lower quality, it's because
It's more volume. Sometimes you turn on, you can't hear a thing. So.
Which anything that's shot in here for Channel 3 will look the same as what I'm shooting now and sound the same. The only difference is the more people that are behind the mics, the harder it is to control the audio. So like right now there's a lot of people and maybe a little off, but really what you're looking at when you see a difference in qualities, it probably came from the other studio.
Teresa?
I'm looking at your 2 pages that you guys gave us, and I guess I'm looking at the salaries are different, but I think everything else is the same. So you're not asking for double everything, right, on the pages? Because you have different descriptions underneath of them, but
Yeah, which
Page 27 and 20.
Yeah, well, I don't have the full package, so.
you have, like, for the full-time position, you have 35,490, and then on the back side, you have increase 36,500. And I think the rest of them are pretty much just you guys are duplicating the services, but that's not paying for them twice, correct?
I think the 36.5 is actually higher than it should be. I think that's actually, we adjusted that prior to this. Am I right? Yeah, so that's actually going to be a lot lower than that. So it's only going to be 4% over whatever 35,000. But 4, 2, actually I think it's only like 1 or 2% over whatever 35,000.
So 35,490?
Yeah, that's closer to it.
Okay, so that also then lines up with what's on the paper then?
Yeah,
okay.
that's just a typo then. It must have just not have been corrected all.
But everything else is just, it's not a duplicate service that you guys are doing, it's the same thing?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if you look over here, yeah, I don't know why it's just 2 different. Either way, yeah, it should be 35,490. You're right.
Okay.
You called out some PTZ cameras. Do you really need those? Those are pretty expensive, like $2,500 a piece.
And to be honest, those are the bottom of the barrel.
I know that.
In reality, I think we do, because like he has said, all the cameras are 10 years old, give or take, and they only last so long. And what we're getting now is artifacts and how it captures the image. So eventually, they're gonna fail over time, just from power fluctuation and stuff like that. They're breaking down. I don't want to see them fail beforehand. And the second part of that is, it's kind of hard to make it look proper and work properly with a piece of equipment that we will be bringing in if they're 2 different formats, 2 different interfaces. Everything is different between the digital PTZ and the analog PTZ.
They're all serially connected and the commands flow around to them, so they have to be.
So it could cause a lot of issues if with the newer
fancy cameras.
So the ones that I really wanted were around $7,000 a piece. And those weren't even the top. That was like the.
We're buying a Ford, right? Not a Cadillac.
Yeah.
Pretty much at the
That's
bottom
why we
of
went
it,
with
yeah.
the 15 or what was it, 25 a piece? Is it?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Is this an all or nothing proposition? You must spend 60,000, or can
Well, unfortunately, because we're changing the technology, so we can either, write at the little pieces and keep analog, or we can make the jump and go to the current technology.
So there's no way you can
can't
slowly
You can't
upgrade?
because of the way, the networking, it's IP based, so each thing has to talk that same language all the way through.
If you were to try and keep any of the old equipment, you would end up spending more before you replace the next piece next year in order to make it work with this equipment than you would actually just to replace it.
Yeah, I mean, there are interfaces
You can convert them for thousands of dollars, but
Yeah.
in reality, then you're going to end up spending a bigger chunk whenever that fails, and you have to get the proper piece to fit its place.
Are we looking at any potential grants or anything that exist for any of this type of equipment?
I'm not sure. If anybody can point me at a grant, I'll go for it.
I don't know.
know if we've got someone that can look into anything like that or not, but, I mean,
I'm up for anything.
doesn't hurt to look.
No, I mean, Time Warner originally gave us, and it wasn't a
Yeah.
grant, it was
No,
because it came out of the
yeah,
fees that,
right.
and they just upped the fees and got the money back and gave it to us, so,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, so the Time Warner thing, essentially, if we did ask for anything more from them, it would just get passed on to the end user, the viewer, or whoever's buying your internet in this location.
Right, because that's one of the things we could do, we could up the franchise fee a little bit, and that money could recoup the cost of this, but that would add a couple dollars to everybody's bill.
So you piece it out per every single bill, but you still, it's the same end result, it comes from the same people, so.
This question is directed to Don. There have been questions concerning GPCOG, what they do for us. Is this an area where they may be able to help us?
Technology?
Yeah.
No.
Well, grant-wise, maybe.
Grant-wise maybe, but I don't think, supporting the sort of technology that we offer is something that they do. I could explore it, but I don't think so.
I think he's thinking more from the grant side.
Grants, yes, they do grants, they help with grant applications and, consulting type work that way, but,
Well, there is group
I was actually
bidding,
working on solid waste, so maybe I missed some of the background, sorry.
This is in terms of available grants as well as group bidding for
Group
services.
bidding, grant acquisition, grant administration, general consulting, strategic planning, visioning, capital planning, those sorts of things would be all in GPCOG's area.
One of the other things we were talking about too, remember when we were doing the meetings for the franchise, the county was looking into possibly getting in some high-speed, lower-cost
Right.
internet service for the municipal part of the town. So
Right,
we're always looking at trying to reduce our cost, because right now, we're paying Time Warner $1,000 a month for our fiber optic link, and that's only guaranteed 50 megabits per second. At my house, I've got the 75 megabits per second, not guaranteed, but I get faster service than the town has for, $80 a month. So, it's just not right.
We've been talking as a group of towns in my town managers, Western Cumberland Town Managers Group, just starting to talk about the idea of working together to explore the possibility of getting high-speed internet into these towns along the 302 corridor. There seems to be, I introduced this idea, and there seems to be some general interest, but that discussion is just starting. Naturally, we would want to contact Cumberland County, work with them, and I don't really have much more to say about it than Kevin's absolutely right about the speeds and the need for, infrastructure improvement and cost reduction.
So if I understand this, then these upgrades would increase our speeds, or?
No.
Well, because what I'm worried, what my thought is that I know at one point I had like this, I don't know if it was a modem, some sort of hardware that was really supposed to be really high tech. We were really excited about gaming and stuff, and then come to find out we just don't have the internet speed to to make it work right. So that's what I'm wondering. If you buy all this new equipment, are you going to have the speeds?
No, this is just for, that's what Don was talking about, is as a town, our internet service provider, a lot of people looking at doing it themselves or getting a bunch of communities together, doing it themselves, working with, like South Portland is working now with GWI to provide gigabit service, which is, hundreds of times faster than what we have for the same money.
In the world right now, right?
So, we're right at the cusp again of things changing, and it's going to come, but we've got to decide when we're going to jump into that service.
And there's a double-edged sword to hosting it yourself as well, because if you take away from Time Warner's fees that they charge people to give them the slow internet that they get, then we don't get the franchise fee back from whatever they were making off from that. So we'll actually drop some of what we make out of the Time Warner account. Am I right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it won't be substantial. It'd be a lot better to go the route of self-hosted.
But what you're saying is they get the cable. They don't get the franchise fee is for the TV part.
Just for the
cable.
TV, they don't.
It's not part of the
I
internet
didn't know
service
that.
part. So that's going down now anyway.
Yeah.
But historically, the question might be, well, our contract's expired, so why not go renegotiate and come back with a better contract? That was the idea a few years ago when our contract expired, and we've also, a coalition of towns around the lake, up and down the 302 corridor, been meeting it's quite apparent to us that if we were to renegotiate even as a group, that we're going to do less well, and so right now we're sort of in a holding pattern, just hoping that we're able to maintain the revenues that we have got with respect to the franchise fees. Things are not getting better in that industry.
I've been talking to the rep that's in our location, and he says that basically they don't try to renegotiate with anybody because they're still on the verge of their whole Comcast thing trying to go through. So they're not seeking anyone out to make any changes, and they're trying to hold off as much as possible.
And we're not seeking them out. When our initial ideas for revenues, for infrastructure, for equipment, you name it, were, let's say, not immediately accepted or endorsed as being anything remotely doable. I think we're going to be looking in a renegotiation, if we ever do that, at less.
I got a question about this equipment that you're suggesting that we purchase. Are we just putting a Band-Aid on something and we're going to be back at this in a year or two because that's antiquated?
No, this is more like if we did put a Band-Aid on it this year and we asked for this amount of money, it would look really bad if we come back a year or two later asking for a large sum. So this is really looking to solve the problem.
You're warning them now.
Just patch it over.
Yeah. This is how video is being handled. Matter of fact, everybody is going to IPTV. I mean, you get most of your video off the internet now. I don't have Time Warner as a cable provider anymore. I have them as an ISP. We don't have cable TV anymore. We use, Vudu and Hulu and everything else. And as you see, even the major networks and people are starting to do a la carte offerings on the internet.
Even people that have been holding out for years are going to that.
Right. So you can get what you want over the internet. And that's what IP is. It's called Internet Protocol. And that's where we're talking about transporting the video around, the studio and from machine to machine to process in a digital form and process it in a digital form, not taking it from the analog cameras, converting it to a digital form, and then converting it back and forth to the different devices and going out over back to Time Warner in an analog form. So everything, the world now is becoming a digital feed, and that's what we're trying to do. So this equipment, this IP, it will stay that way, for the foreseeable future, because that is what the world runs on now, is TCP/IP. All communication is done that way over the entire globe.
And not only that, because it's IP and it's all digital, you can change it to whatever format you need to match whatever the changes are for the future.
Brian?
Two questions. First of all, if we were to do the CIP expenditure of around $60,000, does that at all affect the ongoing budget for technology? It's around $60,000 a year for hardware.
No, it'd be a separate cost. That's just a single.
There's no savings at all.
What I'm providing is the infrastructure for this to run on.
Okay.
So the switches, the firewalls,
It's
all
everything
of that
past it's post-production to distribute.
Right.
Okay. And then the second question, I know I asked this in my questions, but this year you moved $7,000 into the cable broadcasting expenses. So that line went from $12,000 to $19,000. $7,000 is for the heating and electricity in this room, in the broadcast studio. The question I had, and I don't think I phrased it right, was I'm assuming that somewhere in the budget there was $7,000 being expended for the heat and the light, and I'm trying to find out which budget now has $7,000.
It's always been in my budget.
Okay.
What's been happening is it's forced me to go over budget sometimes and not have enough to do what we're trying to do in the infrastructure of technology.
So, sorry to put it so.
No, I'm trying to
bluntly.
get what I really should have for a budget.
Okay. But it's a $7,000 increase.
Yes.
Okay.
In that budget.
Okay, so it's not reallocated. It's actually.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking there was light and heat somewhere else that was moving. Okay. Thank you. So it was answered exactly.
Ongoing upgrades of
Thank you.
computer system.
Other technology? No.
Desktops, that sort of
Mr.
thing.
Chairman, am I allowed to ask questions about this current year's budget? In terms of revenue, public cable franchise fee, $38,000 expected. I see that none of that's been received yet, according to the latest
The first
appropriations.
half has been received now. It will show in your next revenue control report.
Okay.
The second half won't appear until after July, because that's when we receive it.
Okay. Thank you.
Technology questions? Thank you. Fire and EMS.
Good evening. You all have a budget proposal, and I trust you have our cover letters, etc. I just wanted to do a quick recap from our cover letter. We have, of course, throughout the years attempted, done our best at trying to control our costs within our budget, and I think we've been fairly innovative in doing so, attaining some grants for energy consumption, changing out lights as we're doing currently to LEDs to help control our electrical costs, which, by the way, we're kind of proud. When I started in 2003, were $1,300 a month. We just hit $1,300 a month this last month for an electrical bill. Before that, I don't think we'd exceeded it. So we controlled over the course of that 10, 11 year period by taking some actions and improving our energy efficiency. So with all those things said and done, we've actually been able to make some reductions in some of our line items, as you can see. We've reduced our fuel consumption, not the consumption, but the cost in the budget, because we believe fuel prices have stabilized. However, in the last week, they've gone up fairly steadily. We hope we made the right decision in doing so. We've also removed some cost from our electrical line item, and in preparation for what we should see for savings by not hitting demand anymore is the projection at our District 1 station, and the LEDs, which actually draw about 2/3 less in electrical current than the current fluorescent lights that we have been using. So, making those adjustments will help. We also have some increases in our budget, and I think we'll describe these in more depth here shortly. But as an overview, we've adjusted our payroll line, and it's partly because a lot of our members have not seen any increases or much of an increase other than the CIP, and this is the call members that we're talking about right now. Other than the COLA for the last several years, and you've heard me stand here and say before that we actually reduced pay rates in the past and have done that. We removed stipends, we removed $1 per hour on standby for weekend and holiday coverage. It was our enticement to get people to do those shifts and help us control costs there, so we removed some of those fees. But more than that, we look at it, and someone brought it up earlier. You can go to work at one of the local stores in unskilled labor and make $10, $11 an hour, and we have certified EMT firefighters making just under $10 an hour to do the job that they do. We have to look a little bit deeper than that and understand that when we talk about this, members come aboard and do their orientation, which is 40 hours-ish, a little bit more sometimes, depending on the person, and they receive no money for this. I don't know where we go to work anywhere else and don't get paid to do our orientation or learn the job. On top of that, our members go on to certify as an EMT or a firefighter, and out-of-pocket expense for an EMT is $900. It doesn't include their time or their travel to get back and forth to the class. Now, understand that these folks do get that money back eventually, and it is reimbursed to them in 2 payments after they've met their requirements over the course of a year. So we do pay some of that back. But what we've done is we tried to make some adjustments to the payroll lines for our call members to kind of bring them up to where they should be. We did some studies on the area towns and looked at where they were and where we've stayed over the course of the years. And we said it's time that we start paying some folks for their orientation time, because I don't believe it's right to hire, and that's what we've done. And there is no volunteers anymore. They are actually hired as part-time folks to come in and do their orientation and receive no money. We don't go to work at Walmart and trained as a cashier without getting paid for that time. So we think that we need to make those adjustments in our line item for payroll. Our officers will be in at the regular 1.4%. The union members are in at the 2% as per their contract. That was one of the biggest changes that we will see in our budget. In cost control efforts, our association has always done their ongoing fundraisers. $25,000 they spent on a defibrillator last year, $10,000 on thermal imagers, $11,000 on a power cot to help support us and alleviate some of the budget burdens, if you will. This year's project paid $8,900 for a set of washer and dryer extractors to help decontaminate our fire protective clothing, and they're paying for that. And as part of our ongoing member health plan, which includes physical fitness testing, ongoing job placement assessments, and ongoing fit for duty testing that we do within the department to make sure that our folks are healthy enough to do the job, which protects them and the town and the community from its liability. I think the other thing that we have an increase in is you're going to see is vehicle maintenance. And our fleet of apparatus, I could say, is aging. Some of it is, some of it isn't. We're replacing our ambulances on a rotation now through our regional contract, which provides us ambulances which are usually under warranty throughout their life before we actually trade them in at a much higher rate than we've been able to get for ambulances in the past. The apparatus itself, the bigger apparatus, the technologically advanced, the computer-controlled, computer-driven apparatus, those types of maintenance items are really hitting us now. Engine 1 is actually 10 years old. We put quite a substantial amount of money into the body last year because we had a lot of corrosion going on it. Tank 1 I just had to have, and I didn't bring the piece in, but I've got a piece of pipe. All the piping within the pump on this truck is needing to be replaced now. We're looking at major maintenance items with that truck, which is now 15 plus years old. And it's just common. This is the stuff that happens and what we will experience as these trucks get a little older, and we try to hold them together and make them work for another 10 years, we hope. One of the other items that we've got some money into is building maintenance. I think you see a small increase in that. And District 2, we need to install a monitored fire alarm system. We have people who actually reside there. The student program, we've expanded it, so we have 2 living students that stay at District 2 station, which has helped our response times and actually decreased them substantially in this district when they're there. So we have 2 students here at this station and 2 students at the other station, and it's been a big benefit for us. Providing a truck that's gotten out the door much quicker and getting first aid to people in need in this district, if you will, this end of town, much quicker. So we need to get a fire alarm system in there so that we're compliant with our own ordinance, and that's a piece of what we've added. I think it's pretty important that we do, and that leads me into the last part about what we've been doing, and it's not that it shows a big increase, but fire prevention, inspections, pre-planning, and education is a huge component of what we do. We have hundreds and hundreds of hours in inspections, which is separate from pre-planning inspections. There are 2 different meanings there. Inspections is for code enforcement, code compliance. Pre-planning is for firefighter safety, and that's so that we know what we might be dealing with if we have a fire in a particular location. What we might be dealing with as far as the occupancy, the occupant load, and things like that. And then the educational component, where we provide education for stop, drop, and roll, learn not to burn, things like that to not only adults but to children. And we've partnered this year with our library, and I think we did 3 different programs this year, kind of in partnership with the library. From story time, which we always get an educational component into it, to actually coming by the station and doing some tours and stuff. So it's worked out very well and been received very well. Not that that's a huge increase to our budget, however, I think it's important that you know that we're out there trying to prevent fires, and I think that with our code enforcement efforts and teaming up with the code enforcement officer at the town, Dave Maines, I'll give some kudos to as our fire prevention officer, is doing an excellent job at that and giving us a whole lot of time. Our fire rate, knock on wood, has been lower this year than I think we've ever experienced in the past as far as structural fires. So our educational efforts, I can say, are working. I think our code enforcement efforts are also working. One of the things that I thought was kind of important, and it's the close out, and I know Kathy, I think, wants to speak a little bit, but we start looking at our members and what they're doing for us, and I have to give you this guy because he's got the highest number of hours in the whole department. As you look at some of our pay rates for our members, and you see Cliff Small's name there, and I know he won't mind me using it because we've talked about it, but you might also see that this call member of our department's making $31,000 in a year. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? He gave 5,500 hours last year to our department. So he averages somewhere in the $4.50 to $5 an hour range, if we will. And that's call time. That's doing his $2.50 an hour standby, responding to calls, and the few per diems that he works as well. So, our members are doing a great deal. They really are. He is the highest number of hours. He is the record holder, if you will, and the rest of them average down on the, 1,700, 2,000 range, and somewhere in there. So, just kind of the anomaly. So I thought I'd bring it up. Kathy, do you want to speak on billing at all, or any of that? I don't want to throw you under the bus, but.
Kathy Goslin, the Deputy Chief of the Raymond Fire Department. First, I want to talk a little bit about the payroll. We gave you a study that we did for 2015, and I think it's important for you folks to really look at that, because we're finding we're about $2, if not more than that, less per hour than the area towns, less than Wyndham, less than Gray, less than Fry Island. We had 3 of our members go to Fry Island to work last summer. It was a great opportunity for them. Basic EMTs, they could get $12 an hour. They make $9.65 an hour with us. We don't do a lot of per diems. We have added some more per diems this year in the budget, in the payroll issue, in the payroll part of it. But I think we're finding that we're losing folks. This past year, we lost 7 members of the call company. We gained 3, so we're down -4 in 1 year. We used to say we were a department of 35 to 40 people. We're at 27 right now, not counting our 4 full-timers, 27 members, that's including Bruce and I, and 2 junior members. So we're starting to really see that decrease. And I do new member orientation, and when these members come in and they say, well, I want to join your department, what do I have to do? And I lay out the booklet to them, and I say, well, this is what you have to do. And they're like, wow. And then I get $9 an hour to go out in blizzards, to have people at their best, but also at their worst. We deal with some pretty unsightly things. But you want me to run into a burning building for $9.65 an hour? And I think we really need to address that. I know this is the 4th year we've been coming forward with this, and other than the COLA, they have not seen those increases. So I'd really like you to look at that, because we are losing members to other towns. Rescue billing, we're right on track where we've been. I think we brought in $153,000 last year. For the fiscal year for the rescue billing. We do also bill for fire truck response for car accidents only. And that's an issue we're having. We're going to bring it to the select board at some time in the next few months, because we don't have a policy from the select board that says we can bill for this. Some of the insurance companies say, nah, you don't have to pay that. So we do end up writing off a lot of that. But that's kind of an industry standard. If they come for a car accident, okay, it's not if we come to a fire at your house, there's no fees, there's none of that. But if you come to a car accident because you have insurance for your vehicles, they will pay a $300 fee. The insurance is usually for the fire department response, because the fire department, they do traffic control, they do extrication, they do fluid cleanups, they do all of that at the car accidents. So, open to questions. I'm sure you guys are going to have a few of them tonight.
For Bruce, your building maintenance is $12,200 for about 4 years, and then last year it was up 5, and this year it's up another 5. Do you have something in mind there, or is that just?
Well, a chunk of that is actually for this year is the alarm system at District 2 Station. Our budget figures for that system are $6,000 to $8,000. It's going to be a big chunk of it.
Thank you. Were there roof issues too, Bruce? Was there something I remember?
We do have some roof issues. We're working on that, and we've got a proposal when we revisit this under this capital planning to replace the roof down there with metal.
And there's nothing from a warranty standpoint or past any.
The shingles are warranted because the package is labeled 30 years, but it's the installation component of that, I think, that's going to really be the hitch, unfortunately. Yeah, I wish. We have windows that are failing in the seals, and I can't get those warranted either.
Hi.
Hi.
You've been, first David Maines, thank you. He came into our house and did the whole thing with the daycare and checked all the things, so that's good to know,
Great.
as far as with the daycare and having safety on that. You have every year $75,000 taken out, put into a reserve, and I guess I'm going to the CIP on this. One, why, and I know you've got like a little chunk of money in there now, I think like $350,000, and you're asking for another $75,000, which is going to put you up to $425,000. Why did we not use some of that money for the new truck instead of bonding the whole thing? 2, do you have a plan for that money? I know you guys do the ambulance rotation, but I think it's $100,000 for an ambulance if it's traded in every couple years, I think it is. And 3 is, I guess, having that much money in when we've got other departments that don't have that I know that we're trying to keep the budget low. So you guys are kind of sitting on like a little pot of gold, so I guess I'm just wondering what's going on with that.
Okay. I really wasn't
That's loaded,
ready
sorry.
to start for tonight. I was kind of planning on this the next time. However,
I can hold it for the next time then, that's fine.
I can address it if that's what we want to do.
I can-
I'd rather do the CIP
And that's fine. Okay, nope, we're good with that.
Okay.
Yep,
because then we get into the whole question, the whole discussion on
Okay.
CIP.
okay, nope, we're good with that.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, one more question.
Yes.
Kathy, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure we're clear. So if the select board gave you a policy on that, the insurance companies would back?
Actually,
you
it
up?
has to be an ordinance is what we need.
Okay.
We actually need a physical ordinance.
It would have more bite to it.
Okay, all right.
An ordinance would be considered a local law, and therefore they'll comply with that versus just a general policy in the fire department that says, yeah, we can go, your blessing to say yes.
Okay.
Just like when we went with the rescue billing years ago, it came before the select board and
Correct.
Okay.
it was approved.
Kathy, where are we? Are we fairly consistent with runs this year versus the past years, or?
We've been maintaining, yeah, we're pretty good right now. February, knock on wood, has been good.
Yes,
We had a couple of big blizzards, but the call volume stayed low during those. I think people really heeded the message to go home and stay home, which was nice. As the chief said, we haven't had any really big fires, but it's only going to take a couple.
Knock on
of
wood,
big
everybody
fires.
start knocking,
Knock
yeah.
on wood. It's only going to take a couple to, to get the runs up and that. We're still doing a lot of mutual aid response, but they're also coming to our town also.
Okay, so we're about on par where we were on
Yes.
mutual aid too.
Yes.
In fact, we had 2 calls mutual aid today to help Casco out with the incident that they had. You probably saw in the news. One, an ambulance transport, which we did, and the second was a fire response to help them reroute traffic, which we couldn't do because as we were getting ready to respond to that, we had a crash in our own town with injuries, so
Well,
we had to deal with that.
The Wyndham fire this morning, so
Wyndham
there was
fire this
3
morning.
mutual aid calls just today.
Fire EMS?
You showed as far as the years of all the vehicles that you do have,
Yes.
but you didn't show the mileage on ones.
We can give you the mileage. More pertinent is going to be the hours versus the mileage with a diesel truck. Yeah, the hours have a conversion rate that's widely accepted in the industry. And we can give you the hours and convert those for you.
33 miles.
33.
I can tell you that Rescue 2 has about 36,000 miles on it, and Rescue 1, the new Rescue that we got this year, has about 8,000 miles on it right now.
Rescue 2 has 8,000?
No, Rescue 1 has 8.
And that was
Rescue 2 is about 36,000.
just delivered in June.
Rescue 1 is our backup rescue. because we're putting the mileage on Rescue 2 that's due to be in trade-in next year. And if we keep it below a certain mileage, in a 4-year trade-in, we get 30% off the price of a new Rescue.
Engine hours, you add 33 miles for every hour. So if you get, when you do get the engine hours, you want to do that conversion.
It's really because a lot of our equipment sits. I mean,
Right.
you know, Public Works' trucks will go out and drive and they're plowing roads or sanding, and ours are responding 3-4 miles on average and sitting for an hour, you know, and performing their work. So.
Or if you've ever been to the emergency room at any hospital, all the ambulances are running the whole time they're there to keep the systems live, active, brakes everything up, the air systems, life support systems in the vehicles, keep them warm, and they can be on site at the hospital a long time.
It's not the rescue that I'm concerned about, it's the rest, like the trucks.
Yes.
Basically, I'm not a mechanic by any means, but if something's sitting, it's going to rot just as well as being on the road.
Correct. And our apparatus is bought and filled to the brim and sits there 100% of the time, filled, ready to go. When it's not moving, it's
Filled with water.
filled with water, equipment, etc. Yeah. Yeah. So that wear and tear alone on it needs to be considered. So.
Chief, would you like to speak to the event that's planned for March 7th?
I can. On March 7th, we have an Elected Officials Academy, 8:30 in the morning. There'll be coffee and donuts for our elected officials. We welcome you into our department to come in and see what we do. We've got a presentation put together, some demonstrations put together for you. It will end with a QA session and lunch at about, you say, 12:30. We'll be all done. So, fairly short day, very concise day, and an extremely condensed academy, if you will. So it should be fun.
Chief, what was the start time?
8:30.
I think I sent an email to the fire chief.
It was under Elected Officials Academy, I believe.
Chief, how do you manage fuel for the vehicles?
How do we manage it? And I guess what respect
Well,
as far
where
as...
do you get it? Do you have storage on site?
No, we actually get all our fuel right here at the town garage. Everything is depoted through our town agreement with, I don't know who our vendor is, Nate, do you? You do.
Yes,
Burke. And it's done by contract. And we have a keyed, the pump is keyed for each department, so we activate an aux box, get our fuel key out of the locked box, put our fuel in via that key, record it through our dispatch center, and lock the keys back up in the box. So everything we do is recorded, and mileage is taken down at the same time.
Thank you.
Just real quick, who does your regular maintenance, oil changes and all that stuff?
And it does depend on what it is that needs to be done. East Coast Service Center does a lot of it. Northeast Fire Apparatus gets involved, and Public Works does some of our maintenance as well. It depends on what it is and to what extent needs to be, what components need to be worked on. When you deal with wiring on ambulances and fire apparatus, you're dealing with something that requires special certifications, emergency vehicle technician certifications. So pumps, hydraulics, things like that have to go out to other vendors. A lot of our oil changes and things like that can be done in-house. You know, when we have time, I don't dare ask Nathan or Public Works to have an oil change done on anything with all the work they've been doing extra right now. So it's worth it sometimes just to send it out and get it done and not bother at that point.
Although the rescues are under warranty, one's with Ford and one's with Chevy.
Oh, really? So you can just get them there and that's
Yeah.
exactly.
With the new plan that we have, those ambulances are in a fairly quick rotation so that they are under warranty while we own them. And as Kathy said, we get the 30% trade-in. Just so you have the information, the last ambulance we got rid of went to Fry Island, and it was an anomaly. We got $20,000 for the truck, but it was in exceptional shape. The ambulance prior to that, we sold to up on the Washington County border of Danforth, yes. For $7,500, and that was after we went out nationally advertising it, and that's the best we could get out of that truck. So 30% trade-in, we're getting a lot more money when they're $160,000, $180,000 trucks.
Teresa?
maybe I'm opening a can of worms, but if you guys thought once again, because I don't know what a mechanic is charging you guys outside to do the changes compared to hiring somebody in that can have the certifications here for your guys's and for Public Works?
I know that we talked about it a lot, and it's something that will need a great exploration. I know that some of the equipment for diagnosis on pump and wiring issues with multiplex systems is very expensive just to do the diagnosis. I also know that Public Works has a great deal of technologically advanced equipment as well. I mean, a lot of the stuff is plug and play. Some of it we plug into a wall jack and send it right to the factory, the data, and they dial you back in as to what's wrong with your trucks.
Are those ones that are like under warranty though, or are they ones that are charging you the hourly?
Pretty much all of them. The only ones that don't have that kind of an advanced wiring system would be Tank 2, which is almost a 30-year-old truck right now, and Engine 2, which is the truck that we're replacing.
Questions?
I have one more.
Yep.
On this radio repair and replacement, $10,000?
Yes. That line covers a great deal of things. It covers actually replacement of our radios. That's what I was looking for. This radio right here is just a page where it doesn't talk, you can't talk on it, just receives calls. That's $600+. Their life expectancy is 5-6 years. Every member has a radio, a portable radio, which is a two-way walkie-talkie. A two-way walkie-talkie, for example, by the time we get the case that goes with it and everything else, is over $1,000. And again, you can get 5 years or so out of these. Batteries for these units are $100, $110 each. So
Well,
they start getting very costly.
You just have radios, repair, and batteries, 6
Correct.
portables.
Yep, 6 portable radios.
You want 6 portables and then 4 pages for $10,000.
6 portables are
6
$1,100 each.
Those are the two-way radios.
Your 4 pages are almost $600 each. Plus your repairs, last year we had $3,300 in repair. So that gives you the $10,000 right there.
Part of the
If you
dispatch,
add it up.
I guess I need to enter into that, but part of the dispatch line, as you heard me say the last 2 years, everything that's above and beyond what Cumberland County bills us, we've used for infrastructure build out. We've usually had $4,000 or $5,000 left over. I think this year we have, I'm trying to find it really quickly, but I think we have like 2,000, 2,500 this year after their bill, and they're expected to go up another 3% next year. So basically it's taking away that infrastructure build from that. Now, we are getting a brand new radio tower this coming year, and it's done under the IRT project. So the new radio tower, well, it doesn't have really new equipment. It will be a new location with a repeater location that will actually work better for us. We have a system of voter receivers, if you will, scattered throughout the town. These receive and rebroadcast our radio transmissions from our small radios because they're only 4 and 5 watts of output. So they actually rebroadcast at 100 watts into our radio repeater system so we all can hear it. That was the money that kind of took care of this stuff. This line that we're talking about now that you just questioned is the one that replaces batteries, antennas, and portable radios, pagers, things like that. So on an average rotation, you know, if you can get 5, 6 years out of a radio, and you have 20-something of those units just on people, never mind apparatus.
I just want to make sure you understood what I said. With the radios, I said 6 portables at $1,100. That's $1,100 each.
Yeah, those are each.
So that's $6,600 right there off the 10.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty expensive.
Do you just deal with like one person to do this, or have you actually shopped around?
Well, I shop around. I pretty much would say we're brand specific because you're trying to build a system that works, and you want standardization when you're dealing with radios. You don't want to pick up a radio in the middle of the night in a sleety snowstorm or whatever and enter an atmosphere like a fire and have to think of what radio you have and how it operates. So we're trying to standardize everything. So Motorola is what we've been using. And the other side of that is that they have a proven track record. We've tried going with Kenwoods, we've tried going with other brands like Vertex, which are a cheaper version of a radio, if you will. I think they're actually made by Motorola, but the Vertex just didn't hold out. So we had a running track record of some of these brands just not working for us.
Just one more question. Okay, I thought I saw somewhere that you guys were going to do solar panels. Am I wrong?
In capital plan.
For a couple of years out.
Okay, so that's the CIP. Right. I'll come back on that one.
Part of our cost
No, I
containment
couldn't find
efforts.
it. It was driving me nuts. Okay, so I wouldn't ask any more pencil questions for you guys. Thanks.
Other questions on fire? Thank you.
Thank you.
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure, fancy word for streetlights in this town. So, based on average monthly use, we're looking at FY 15-16, 21,816. Last year, 21,000 flat, so an increase of $816 or 3.8%.
Is that essentially what, I'm sorry. Is that essentially what electricity's going up, Don, or are we increasing our number of our?
No, we haven't increased the number of the lights, so it's utility cost. And I don't know how many, do you know how many street lights we have? I know we have 69 ornamental lights. I'm not sure how many standard street lights we have though. But we aren't increasing them.
No.
Are the ornamental lights in the tip?
I believe the ornamental lights are part of this, correct? Oh, these are tip? They're in the tip? Oh, okay, sorry.
That's more milk.
Other questions on infrastructure? Solid waste.
Solid waste, $314,742 last year, $429,177. It's a decrease of $114,435 or 26.6%. So how does that happen? That happens because the MWAC debt is paid off, $135,527 last year, zero this year. But what's also happening at MWAC is after 12 years of holding the tip fee flat at $29, they're going up to $41 because of their utility contracts. They're not getting what they had gotten with the sale of electric, the power they generate from incinerating the waste. And so that's caused them a problem. And so that's where we're going to see an increase. And this year we're going to see $61,500 versus $43,400. Last year, $18,100 or a 41.7% increase. But they're lower than any other known option, though. Your choices are, EcoMaine, which I think was at about $88 and now around $70 after they retired their debt. There's the PERC plan. I don't know exactly what they're getting, but I do know that for spot market waste, which is what we would be, it would be a high rate. So there's no better deal in town, even though it's a significant, increase in the tip fee. I guess that's what I have to say about solid waste.
Don, I know the recycling committee is currently dormant. Tipping fees are going up, so the more that we could get townspeople to recycle, the better off for the town, because even though there's a pickup cost, there's not the tipping fee.
That's true. The less tons you take to the incinerator, the less you pay, for the tip fee. And right now, we're actually pretty lucky, and because we are having Pine Tree take away our recycling at no cost. Now, people said, "Oh, Joy, maybe that was a bad deal. We shouldn't have done that." But Pine Tree, Stu Axelrod, their operations vice president, informed me the other day that plan on in the next contract negotiation, if things don't change, in there being a fee for taking the recycling, because with the worldwide glut of oil, it's cheaper now to make things out of raw materials, so people are doing that. So the recycling market has completely, dropped off, and it's actually a cost to Pine Tree to get rid of some of this stuff. So hence they're going to want to pass that cost on to us. So maybe things will change with oil, maybe that'll all get resolved. But right now, recyclables are a cost to Pine Tree, which doesn't matter to us under the current contract. It will matter under another contract. But your point is that if we can move more recyclables out of the waste stream, that's less tip fee to MWAC, that's good for us.
Right, and my question was, is there anything that we can do? I mean, I love having the private sector do the work, like the volunteer committees. I'm very, very big on that. Is there anything that the town can be doing, either to recreate that recycling committee or working with other groups? I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, we asked the question, I think you asked this question too, about our rate compared to others, and I was actually kind of shocked. That went out late today, I don't know if you saw that. But our rate is actually, well, let's say, we're not one of the leaders, but we're not Auburn. Auburn was like dismally bad. This is of the towns that Pine Tree picks up.
Right.
And some of the leaders were, Wyndham was a leader, and the way you get to a high recycle rate, it seems, is you charge paper bag system, which they have. The other thing that I didn't think of, and this came in, I think this was the final email, and Nate called Dave McNally, who's the actual man who does the operations, and we were trying to figure out why our, comparatively, I think we were 20-odd%, low 20s, 21 maybe? 22. And Wyndham was maybe 51, something like that?
48, yeah.
48, okay, so anyway, then there was another one in there that was 51. So how do they get to those numbers? They get to those numbers by paper bag, because nobody wants to, pay.
Right.
So they will recycle as much as they can to get it out of the waste stream, which helps with the tip fee cost. That's something we have not, it's been discussed in the budget before, but it's not anything that we've ever moved forward with. Final thing though, as I was saying with McNally calling Nathan, is that we have a huge seasonal increase, and so people who are coming here to recreate in the summer at their second home, or people who are visiting and renting a camp, have probably less knowledge of, interest in, less buy-in, less commitment to recycling, and so we see our population triple, quadruple in the summer. And according to Dave, I've never actually had a hands-on experience with this, but I think Nate probably has. It's a lot of stuff down there, a lot of waste. It just explodes basically with waste on the Cape and other lake areas in town.
Thanks.
So we have some unique challenges, but if you want to get to the high recycle rate, which will achieve what Brian is saying, it will definitely reduce your tip fees. You've got to go paper bag. That's the thing that works.
Well, could you reduce how much everybody's allowed? Like I have a family of 5 and I put out one giant, I don't use my 2.
Right.
Is that just a standard that they say 2?
Yeah, you can, we've done that too. We actually have that still in force, and there are very few people who, I know Mr. Taylor does. He buys bag tags, and if you go beyond a certain amount, you're supposed to do that. But you could reduce that level.
Right.
But of course, then some people say, well, that's a tax on people with large families, and that's unfair, and sometimes, people with less means have, younger families with younger kids, bigger families, so people who are less able to pay. If you're into that whole equity thing.
Well, then the paper bag though that's
paper bag, same thing. It penalizes young families, large young families, I guess, if you look at it that way. But it also, if you look at it the other way, you say, well, it's pay. You use it.
Well, unless you look a little bit at what's in that trash stream. If a lot of it is milk jugs, then that's recycled.
I'm a family of 5, and I have a ton of recycles, but I use one.
If you get one bag in a family of 5, you're really
not
recycling.
a bag. No. We were allowed 2
55 gallon.
Oh.
Right. Yeah.
33 gallon.
Right. Are we allowed 2?
I use a big one.
What if everybody just allowed 1?
Well, that's a drum. That's a drum.
4 bags. Yeah.
Right, she's saying we're only allowing 1 instead of 2.
Or take it up and down.
Right. You would, that's one strategy would be to cut the limit, and then you have to try to enforce that. And the enforcement piece is tough, because the enforcement is on the guys who pick it up. And when we strictly enforce that, we've tried that in the past, my phone rings off the hook, the staff gets calls, and people say, why didn't you pick up my trash? No, I didn't have that much trash. Then you get into a metric of trying to measure people's trash.
Or Nathan picks it up on the side.
Or Nathan picks it up. I've sent Nathan to pick up trash at all hours of the day and night, just because it's sometimes the only way that you can quiet the water.
Is that in the job description?
Entertainment.
Everyone should have their own Nathan, because when something really goes wrong, you call up Nathan, you say, even if it's in the middle of the night, you say, so Nathan, here's the problem. Now go solve it. And I say, it could be a lot worse. How could it be any worse, he always says. I say, well, I could be you. That would be worse. So you're going to have to go to the Cape and pick up trash.
Other solid waste questions? Our favorite topic of always, county tax.
Okay, well, they originally gave us a preliminary number of 5.24% or $32,000, $32,370 increase. So the good news is the actual, which we received just the other day, was is now 4.93%, so slightly down, and 30,461. I did ask Dick, this is also, I think, in response to one of your questions, Brian, we asked their finance director to outline, you know, what was driving that, and he sent you a memo, which I think we forwarded to you.
That's great.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting when he said, of course you'll understand that, just like you know, you're going to see the 2% COLA, and you're going to have your Maine Municipal Maine Municipal Health Trust, and your Maine State Retirement, just like you. So I said,
Not just like us.
not so much.
You got the other guys.
Yeah. So anyway, that's county tax, and there's not any, as you know, anything you can do about county tax.
Right. Questions on county tax? Revenues.
Okay, revenues. Excise taxes, projected increase 32,000. Local road assistance, anticipated decrease of 3,000. Veterans exemption, increase of 1,000. Snowmobile reimbursements, increase of 200. CEO fees, increase of 5,000. Fire and rescue ambulance collections is an increase of 2,000. Solid waste bag tag income, a decrease of $150. I'm assuming that's based on our actual receipts.
It's pretty low right now.
Yeah, so lien charges, an increase of 500. Investment income, an increase of 3,000. The timber sale is 25,000 in the budget for FY 15-16, as not everything was received in FY 14-15. We did get another check on the 20th, and Nancy now says the difference maybe is going to be closer to 17,000, so that's a change. Although I'm optimistic, and I'm thinking, how closely can you count these trees actually? And I talked to Greg, and he thinks maybe 20,000 is okay. And so I mean, I think he's conservatively estimated, so I don't know if we may be able to leave that where it's at. You know, if you're feeling lucky with the number of trees we have left to harvest. No use of the fund balance this year, so that's a decrease of 428,500. The homestead exemption reimbursement, we had estimated a $3,000 increase, but Kurt, our assessor, Kurt LaBelle, thinks it could be 5,000, so that could be a change we could make. The better reimbursement, we originally thought $3,000 decrease, but Kurt is thinking an $11,000 increase for some reason, and I think he wrote a memo about that. It just escapes me right this minute. But do you remember what the reasoning behind that was, Nancy?
More equipment embedded.
Okay. And so, but overall, we're looking at a substantial decrease if you look at the count group, because we're not using the fund balance. And the reason we're not using the fund balance is because we have $1,878,648. Our policy says we need to keep $1,776,000 roughly. And so we're getting close to where we need to be, and we knew that last year. So that's the issue there with revenues. So
Questions?
Yeah. On the public cable franchise fee, is it possible to get a breakdown of how that number is computed?
Yes.
You may already have it, I don't know, but
I can send it to you. I can send it out to all of us, what we get.
what is it based on? The number of Time Warner customers and
Right.
So much per.
that's it, simple as that?
Yep.
And is that, how often is that adjusted? As customers come and go with Time Warner?
It's only adjusted by the number of customers.
Yeah, but what if I give mine up tomorrow? And does that cut it by one?
Yeah, that's right.
do they adjust it
Okay.
annually possibly?
Every month. Every month,
You-
there's a count.
Okay.
And that computes back to what they, yeah, really? Okay.
Is that cable, voice over the internet, or internet?
Cable.
Just
Cable.
cable.
Just TV.
Cable,
Just television.
TV only.
Not internet.
Right.
Access, okay.
Some people would argue, and I think argue rightly, that the whole issue of, you know, the way that we're receiving media, television, Kevin could probably tell you, better the future, but it's something that is in a state of transition, and I don't know about the dominance of the Time Warners moving forward and the sustainability of that revenue. In fact, I would argue that that's probably not the future.
In terms of timber harvest, timber sale, I believe I saw a truck coming off of Patricia today, so is that an ongoing effort for revenue?
They moved the equipment back in. We received a check on the 20th, and because we can only sell so much timber in a year because of the strictures by town meeting for selling property, personal, and so timber is considered property of the town. So they're finishing up what we can do this year, and then they have to go away and come back in the next fiscal year.
So how real is that $55,000 of
I think that's a real number.
anticipated revenue for this fiscal year? Is that still real?
It's not for this year. That's the whole project, I think.
Okay.
But I think the number is good. I mean, he went out and scaled the trees and gave us an estimate, and he is a little conservative in his estimate, so we make it for sure.
So again, we receive funds from timber harvesting, but again, it's in this period 8, so we don't see it in the January revenue control report?
We won't see 55,000.
No, any monies. Right now, it was 0 as of January.
It just hasn't been moved over. There will be like 25,000.
But you're not gonna see a whole bunch of cutting. You're just gonna cut the remainder that balances out the check. Greg will check that, make sure it's, scale what's taken and make sure it balances, and then.
There was a lot of cutting last year prior to.
Yes, there was, and we received a substantial amount of money, and so what's gonna happen though is that will be, now they can get back in there apparently. Doesn't seem possible, but apparently they can. And then with the snow, that doesn't bother them so much. They'll finish that contract, what's allowed this year, and then off-site until the next fiscal year after mud season.
Questions on revenues? Tiff?
Hi, well, I'm Danielle Loring, and I presented some of the items that you'll see in the TIF, so if you have any questions, you'll see that there's a couple of new additions, which is the GIS plotter, and this is to replace a piece of equipment that we've had since 2004. And despite our efforts to kind of piece it back together and keep it limping along, it died on us. So it's completely dead. But I'm hoping you'll see a quote in the package today, and I actually got an update this afternoon, which brought it down to $9,631, but I think I can get that adjusted a little bit further down if I work with the warranty package and possibly get them to allow me to trade in our existing plotter, even though it's not functional. And then also the for a 2016 ortho imagery flight that will gather some data to use amongst our various departments. So.
And within the TIF, we have a projected increase in our contracted services of $33.90. And there's a new request, and I think Diane Potvin, I had her contact you, Rolf, is that right? Diane Potvin, Sebago Lake Health Rapid Response Team is a new request. Did she contact you?
No.
Okay, well, the request was made, as I think Brian suggested, that everybody who was, seeking, outside agencies seeking funding would need to attend, and so we made that. We discovered that she was in California, and she asked if she could come on the 2nd. And she was supposed to contact you about that?
No, I received nothing.
Okay, well, that was what I had given her your email and so forth, so. Anyway, I can tell you what I know about it, but she's not here, so.
Who are they, Doug?
Well, it's a group of people who are interested in the mitigating the spread of milfoil in Sebago Lake. She lives on Turtle Cove. She's come and met with our town manager group, made a presentation. She's trying to raise monies from both the state of Maine and from the towns that surround Sebago Lake. So she's made a request in every town. and they're working with LEA. I think the question was, what's the relationship to RWPA, and I'm uncertain about that one. You'd have to ask her. I don't know, but they're not a direct affiliate. Okay.
Bob Chapin, I'm the president of RWPA, and we have not been included in this initiative to this point in time. This is a
Bob,
Diane
Bob,
initiative.
can you go to, or either that or get the other mic? Just so-
Mike's-
No, we're doing that just because this is being broadcast.
Sorry about that, Ralph. I probably shouldn't have given him the go-ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Bob Chapin from RWPA, and we are the Grand Waterways Protective Association. This initiative that you're talking about now is a Diane Potman initiative. I think she initially discussed it with the city managers at the golf tournament last summer, and that was actually the first that we heard of it. So it's a separate initiative on her behalf, and RWPA at present is not involved in it, although I think our name came up as one of the responding forces, but that is not the case at this point in time, so sorry.
There is some, at least consulting with, I don't know if there's involvement or not, but she mentioned, you know, the idea of working with LEA. They talk about getting funds together, state and local funds, to contract with qualified entities to provide, you know, the milfoil mitigation removal. But I really, beyond that, I probably shouldn't say much. I think it's, if you would permit her to come on the second, I think that's not unreasonable to have asked that. She's coming back tomorrow from California.
Not to be stupid, but what is LEA for those out?
Lakes Environmental Association, I think. They're out of Bridgeton. They've been around for a long time and are very well known.
One more. A couple years ago, we talked about putting a second boat in the water.
Bob might be related to that.
A couple of years ago, we talked about putting a second boat in the water for milfoil mitigation. Did that boat go in? Do we have it?
Let's get the mic, Bob. Sorry, just so people can.
That's okay.
Can,
Head nod is good.
can watch.
It's just, you know, we may be able to hear in here, but
Right.
that way.
We want our television, our
That's
expansive television audience.
right out there.
Fair enough. Yes, we have a second boat that's in service right now. Both boats are currently in winter storage at the town lot, and we appreciate that. And they're tarped and covered with snow right now. But yes, it's an operational boat, and we plan to be using both of them. We may end up cross-decking a crew between the two of them. Since it takes such a level of effort to move it from Turtle Cove to some other place we might use it, we may just locate two different boats and then hot deck the crew across to get utilization. Thank you.
Yep, Bob?
Bob, are you able to operate both vessels at the same time? Do you have staffing to do that?
We do not have staffing right now, and that's one of our funding issues. Is we can't afford to pay the crew or two crews to do that. We also hold off on committing too much on the boats until the spring season, because our first event of the mitigation season, if you will, is to go out and survey the places where we've had milfoil in the past. Ironically, last year was a tremendously reduced milfoil, not necessarily due to our efforts, but because of Mother Nature. Sebago Lake was drawn down quite a bit last year, and between the cold temperatures that we had last year and the lake level, a lot of the milfoil did not show back up, particularly in Turtle Cove and in Mason Cove. That's not to say it won't be there this year, but all the way through the season, right into the fall, we didn't have as much of a bloom, if you will, of milfoil as we've had in past years. So I think that answers your question.
Other questions? Brian?
Daniel, on the plotter. The plotter you currently have, I don't believe is a scanner, correct? It's just
No.
a printer?
The-
The unit you're looking at has scan and copy capabilities?
Yep, and the reason why that is because we have a lot of materials at the town office that should be archived and that we could be making available online, and it just makes the process a lot easier, as well as preserving those documents. And what we're doing right now is we actually ship them over under our current contract with Sebago Technics and have them scan it, but that's like $90 an hour. So if we had it in-house, we, serious savings.
Just as an estimate, how many scans do you do? How many maps do you create? I'm just trying to get a sense of the volume.
Well, if you look at our tax maps, that's 78 right there that we create on a yearly basis. And we create two 36 by 24 sets, as well as if anyone comes into the town office and sees a topography map or a lake map or anything like that, they can purchase it from us for $10. But if we were to use an outside service like Staples, we'd have to charge them $50 in order to recoup our costs, as well as, you know, kind of get some of that overhead back. I would say, you know, the plotter, I'm always busy with it. Like Chris will get an email for house plans, and I can print those out for him, or some scans for the planning board. You know, I can't really estimate. I would say probably in the thousands. I go through.
That's right. I wasn't sure it was hundreds or thousands.
Yeah, I go through probably about. We get big rolls of paper, and I go through probably about 6 of them in a year or more. So, you know, there's a whole room, and I definitely utilize it the most I can.
Thank you.
Yep.
Questions on TIF? Thank you.
Sorry, Ralph, sorry.
Yep.
I just wanted to give either Bob or Wayne, I see from the Raymond Casco Historical Society, I mean, do you guys want to make any comments about, you know, kind of, I'm the troublemaker who got you guys here, because I was the one who said, hey, we should have people here. So what,
I'm here to answer any questions you have.
I guess the question would be just, you know, how are the funds that are provided from the town utilized by your organization?
Well, we're the only outfit in town that isn't asking for a raise. We can give you a sunset time of when you can quit helping us. First, we sincerely appreciate your $1,800 a year, and we get an equal amount from the town of Casco. We have a small membership of about 20 paid members, and our income derives from the 2 donations from the town, fundraisers and membership fees. And we currently own, within 5 years, we have a $175,000 brand new building. We have $40,000 worth of improvements to it. We have leased 2 other buildings, and we're in the process of planning to build a 40 by 80 extension on the museum because we've run out of space. We don't owe any money. We have built an endowment of $48,000 within the 5 years. And when we get to 200,000, we think we can tell you to quit paying us or giving us any more. So pray for us and leave us lots of money. And because the only basic income that we have is donations and gifts, we know how to beg. So and do a pretty good job at it. But right now, in closing, we're running a penny drive through Casco and Raymond, and all the pennies, if everybody saved all the pennies every year and gave them to us, we'd get another $10,000 for our endowment every year. So bring it up after May 15th and drop it off, and we'll even count them.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. Bob, would you want to make any comments about RWPA and the?
Well, no, other than that, we're not asking for any additional money this year. Obviously, we're very grateful.
Oh, sorry, can I get you to get the mic? I apologize.
Sorry. Yes, we're very grateful for the money that we've gotten from the town in the past. We're not asking for an increase this year. We had the earlier discussion, we're stepping up our operation with a second boat operation, and whether we staff that fully with a separate crew or not is at TBD, depending upon what we find when the water gets a little warmer and what shows up. We do about, from what we get from the town is about maybe 25% of our funding. We get about 1/3 of our funding from the state through the milfoil stickers that motorboats and float planes pay in order to operate in waters. And then the rest comes from private donors. We do a solicitation. In fact, we've got one going out this week to members that are either backlot owners or lakeshore owners on the lakes that are within Raymond, including some of the folks on Sebago, of course, because they're in the corridor. And obviously, like an operation like this, the majority of our expense is personnel costs. Each one of these boats has to be crewed. We also do the CBI program, or the Courtesy Boat Inspector program. The kids, and some are not so kids, that you see at the Raymond Boat Launch and all of the other public boat launch lakes in Raymond. So we'll have somebody there on the peak times, which can start as early as Thursday night, but they'll go through Sunday also. And they are the ones that are talking to the boaters that are doing launches and making sure they do a little bit of education. At the same time, they're checking for the transfer of weeds between lakes of the undesirable kind. We get a couple of finds each year where we actually discover some milfoil on a boat coming out or going in, and this year we found some also, but it happened to be in the water at the Raymond boat launch. And, you know, it's hard to tell where that comes from when it shows up there, whether somebody just pumped their bilge as they were coming to the ramp, or whether it's drifted in from wherever. And milfoil, I think most of you know, is kind of a noxious weed, and it has a capability to do what they call auto-generation, which even though we're moving around and pulling plants and things like that, and we occasionally break fragments off of those plants, the plant itself at a certain cycle in its life will just separate from the rest of the plant and go and colonize somewhere else. So it's a ubiquitous plant once you get in your lakes, and that's kind of what our effort is. We understand that we'll never completely eradicate it, but we try and maintain the control on it so that it's not as irksome to boaters and swimmers and other folks who have lakefront property. Direct impact on the property values of those homes if you get it in front of you. Those of you who've been around here for longer than I have know that there are lakes around here not too far that have been inundated with this stuff, and try and sell a real estate package on those houses is tough.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bob, thus far your diver-assisted harvesters have been limited to Sebago Lake. Do you ever see any hot spots where you may have to deploy in any other of the Raymond waterways?
Well, when you're saying, we also do the feeders, like Panther Run, for example, or Jordan River, or whatever you want to call it. We do a significant tarping operation and weed pulling operation, but because of the shallower water, it's done normally with individual divers and walkers, basically, that do that. In fact, we enrolled some kids from one of the local camps to help us on a kind of environmental training experiment with them, and the kids really impressed us because they got in this slimy water with lots of mud and lots of crawly things in there and just helped us pull the tarps out. It went very well, and you know, they get credit for environmental event. But as you pointed out, most of the actual eradication work that we do is on some part of Sebago Lake. We work at Port Harbor Marina, and they're good to us. They allow us a billet to keep one of our boats there. But every year we're in there cleaning out, principally in the early part of the season, because once they get boats into the finger slips there, they just as soon not have us, and we just as soon not be under those boats, you know, trying to pull weeds. So we're in there early in the season and then late in the season once they get their stuff out of there. Then we do the Bayview canals, and we've laid off of the lower Jordan at the request of the folks who live over there, because they're going to try their own efforts, and they were doing some commercial hire of Cliff Cabral and some of the other guys that do the eradication commercially, but their operating costs are more than twice what ours are on a daily basis to do that. So their money won't go as far, but it's the way they've chosen to do it, so we lay off.
Have you been able to get cooperation from some of the other towns around Sebago Lake, or are they still
Well,
going their own way?
it's kind of ironic, and Peter's got a lot of experience working around the lake, but if it's not in your backyard, you're minimally interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the frustrations that we have as an organization is, and maybe this is what Ms. Potford is thinking about doing, but why aren't there more communities on Sebago Lake that are concerned about this? You know, why don't you have Deep Cove people, and why don't you have Kettle Cove people, and why don't you, all these people that have the weed, why aren't they banding together and doing something like that? And some of them will do, you know, what we call pay for play sort of things, you know, where they would hire a boat to come in, clear my property, and don't worry about my neighbor. And that is we think that's a losing strategy, because this weed could care less, and it'll be back in that property the following year.
Some of us want to walk on water.
Some of you may be able to.
Other questions?
Sorry,
Yep,
last
right.
question. Don, on the GIS contract, that's with Sebago Technics, right?
Yes.
And then I saw that on the GP cog, and thank you again for the information, one of the things that they said that they provide is kind of GIS services. Do we use, and I'm looking to both of you guys now.
Yeah, that's probably more of a Danielle question, but the answer is yes, and she can answer that one. Tell you the difference in what we're
Cool.
doing.
So we do utilize GP cog for some of the GIS?
No.
Oh, we do.
They do have that service, and at the most part, what we can do is kind of get like regional maps from them, you know,
Okay.
like hotspot maps and stuff like that. But when we did the bid process and interviewed them, their services weren't on the same level and caliber that we were getting with Sebago.
So that's not one of the things that we use from GP cog. We use Sebago.
No, I said we get more data, and they can also send out and get us some map layers that we can use, but not on the same caliber, no.
But it is something they provide.
Right.
Not under this contract, but historically we have utilized. So we've gone to a different level maybe, but I think it's, you probably saw it on this sheet as something they can do.
Yeah, one of the
That's what you're
like 5
referring to.
areas that they had, yeah.
But thank you, Danielle.
Yeah, that falls under like member services, so it's, as I said, it's like on a 30,000 square foot level where they can give us
Right.
some very basic information that kind of pertains to the whole region or some specific areas of Raymond, but not, Sebago Technics is specific to us.
But if you know about GIS, and I know you do, you talk about layers and data sets, and so there may be layers and data sets that they develop regionally and other things like that. So of course they could be incorporated into our, system with our contractor, and so they don't do our specific contracting, but they are in that business.
There may still be some value there.
They have, I think they add value there, yeah.
And I will say that we kind of have like the best of both worlds between GP Cog and Sebago Technics, because they've developed a really good working relationship where our planner, Jim Seymour, works really well with Stephanie Carver, so he can give her some engineering background and tell her how different information practically works with our ordinances, but she has the expertise in the state connections to kind of tie that together, so they work together on these. Plus, because GP Cog has state funding available to them, we actually probably more benefit from a $10,000 contract, because if something pertains to a grant that they have open, they'll bill it to us bill it to them instead of to us. So we'll actually get her to work on other projects and things that kind of pertain to the region as a whole, like the Panther Pond, the boating ordinance that she worked on recently, because that had wider spread practical applications. She was able to bill it to the state instead of to us. So we actually get a much longer spread contract. And then through GIS, John Giles actually works on a lot of the state boards, so he's an excellent resource and works with GP Cog. So, as I said, we have like the best of both worlds going on. They're excellent contractors, and we've really, hit the jackpot with them.
Well,
Thanks.
while we're on GP Cog, we're gonna get an electric vehicle plug-in. Now, there are no, as far as I know, no known vehicles, electric vehicles. The town's not buying an electric car, but you say, well, so why? Well, we got a grant, it's about $4,000, it's gonna go into the town office, and so it's a charging station. At this point, it's something that if it were to be used would be, a cost to the town, but, so I know people are gonna ask, why do that? And the idea is to promote, the idea of sustainability and environmental, alternatives. And of course, what towns do, if this were to become popular, and by the way, we're behind Casco. This is a place where I can say, we're behind Casco, they have 2 of these, and they put their 2 in, believe it or not, at town expense, via town meeting, compelled to by their citizens. Ours was 100% grant. But, so, in talking to Dave, they intend to put in lock boxes, which apparently, if you ask for a voluntary contribution, historically, where these things have been used, you'll get more revenues that way than you do if it were a metered use. So yes, we're going to have a vehicle charge station at the town office. No, we have no electric vehicle. If an electric vehicle grant came up, would I apply for one? I would. And we would use it as a station car, staff car for the town. I don't know if any of you saw the electric car that we came from GP Cog that we circulated throughout the town. I think we were one of the leading towns. We had 50 or 60 people drive it while it was here. And so if we could get one for nothing, that's the deal. That's how it would work with like GP Cog. On a 2 or 3 year lease, we would do it and use it that way. But if not, we'll have a charging station and no car.
So I take it they don't have them at state surplus yet?
No, they do have hybrids, but they do have hybrids, but the batteries are pretty worn down. And she's left me a note here that says, do we have the RTP bus in the budget? And the answer is we do, but where's, that's under
CIS?
That's under community.
Probably on the community development.
community development, so that's coming up next session. But, so we did, as I said, we followed up on your, and we asked everybody. I don't know where the other one that comes to mind is the Snowmobile Club, but they're under.
No, they're on a different, they're on the 3rd.
Yeah.
They're on the 3rd, okay.
Yeah. They're not in.
Other questions on
Is it the third or the second?
Second.
Sorry, 3-2. I knew there was a 3.
Okay. At this point, if there's anyone from the community wants to make a public comment on any of the items that were discussed tonight, we'll open that up. We'll limit that to 3 minutes a person, if there's anyone. And please, when you do, identify yourself.
Thank you. Alex Giacomino, 26 Castleton Road. I'm here to speak in favor of the budget for, the proposed budget, I'm sorry, for the library. If you've been there in the past 3 or 4 years, you've seen some pretty terrific improvement. I mean, my grandchildren love to come there, and when they come up to visit, that's the first place they want to go. And the staff is good. It's getting there, and they really do need this money. All right, they're almost at a point of if we don't get this money, we might be going on a downhill slope, and we don't want to do that. If you've been there, it's been a very, very good asset to the community, and I wish you would really give it serious consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Deborah Clark, 25 Granite Ridge Drive. I'd like to speak in support of the library's proposed budget. My husband and I moved here in 2002, and since that time, I have seen the library grow from a ladies' book club to a fully functioning public library that meets the information technology, school readiness, and continuing education needs of our community. I've seen the board hire a professional librarian to provide quality directorship of the library's operations and excellent patron assistance. I've seen more convenient open schedule for the library. I've seen the library be automated for functions like lending, catalog searching for increased efficiency. I've seen attendance of children's programs almost triple in those years, and I've seen attendance at adult programs increase 7 times. I've seen the library's strategic plan with their reasonable and forward-thinking goals and objectives to meet our residents' changing needs and to support the aspirations of this community. The Raymond Village Library provides essential public services for our community, and adequate public funds should be appropriated for its continued development. Just as an aside, I called the town office and I asked, out of that $11.80 mill rate, how much of that money goes to the library? And I was told 4 cents. So I went back and looked at my own property tax bill, and paying over $4,400 of property tax to this town, I figured that I support the library with $15 out of my property tax bill. The best value around, I can tell you, because you can't buy a movie or a hardcover book for $15 a year. I urge the Budget Committee to fully support the Raymond Village Library's budget proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Coco Euler. I'm a newbie, moved to Maine 4 months ago. I live in South Casco, shop in Wyndham and Portland. Neighbors said, you know, there are a couple great libraries. One is Casco and one is Raymond. We really like Raymond. Go to Raymond. Well, I went to both. Casco is 10 miles north and Raymond Village Library is 10 miles southeast. I want to share my impressions with you because, again, I'm a newbie, and excuse me if I say anything that isn't, 100% correct. But this is the similarities that I saw between Casco and Raymond. Both of them have excellent staff and volunteers. Efficient, knowledgeable, welcoming atmosphere. In Casco, I met with Michelle there and some volunteers. And Raymond, Sally, Connie, Lisa, wonderful volunteers too. Enthusiastic patrons at both of them. Populations they serve, about 4,000 in both. Summer can go up to 10,000, I understand. Both of them are open 27 hours a week. Casco 3 days, Raymond 4 days. Programs and events for various ages and interests, lots of them at both. Websites are great, informative. And now the differences. You walk into the Casco Library, and you walk, and you walk, and you walk. And there's stuff going on over here, and there's stuff going on over here. And there's a meeting room with a door, and it's quiet. People are meeting in there, and nobody can hear it. There, I could go on and on. You walk into the Raymond Library, you open the door, and that's it. You are there. And they have as many things going on as they possibly can. But it's like this. Whereas in Casco, oh, you go into this corner, and people are doing their thing over here. It's just an incredible, shocking difference. Size and space, stark contrast. Casco has space for all ages and interests, including a meeting room. Raymond is boxed in. The irony is that they're doing a lot of the same things. How is Raymond doing it? I think they're doing it because of passion, because of community involvement, because you guys are supporting them, because they're doing everything they can to get volunteers to come in and to get extra money. And excuse me, because I'm nervous. You can hardly
Doing
tell. In terms of resource materials, you go into the Casco Library, and I mean, they've got walls and walls and walls and walls and walls of stuff. They've got stuff for, I mean, they have a whole area there just for kids. You go into the Raymond, that's Casco, you go into the Raymond Library, and you see a whole bunch of kids, and you see the parking lot is absolutely filled, and there's no place to park. But the kids are excited, and they're doing stuff, but you gotta go like this. You gotta walk around like this. And then some older people are saying, but I want it quiet. Well, wait a second, there's no place to go to be quiet. Casco, there are a million places to go. So parking is a nightmare at the Raymond Library. And in Casco, they got this huge parking lot. Anyway, technology. You go to Casco, and they've got computer stations galore. They've got a movie screen as big as this whole wall. They have movie night. There would be no place to put that in the Raymond Library. Okay, so first I would say...
See if we can wrap it up, please.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm going over my 3 minutes. So anyway, to meet the needs of the community, et cetera, I think the #1 need that I see as a newbie is they need more space. They have the ideas, they have the people, they have everything, but they need space. So anyway, thank you for your attention and consideration. By the way, I'm going to be teaching sign language there. You're all invited to come. It's going to be free, but I'm sure that they will accept any donations you have. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes. I don't really want to follow her though.
I endured to just want to speak for the library and my friend Sally. I've been here for probably, oh, I'm sorry, I'm Diana Freuslin, 101 Daggett Drive. I think I've been here for about 4 years, and the difference in the library is just huge. I can't believe what they accomplish with so little money. She's performing miracles there. So in hearing the budget and listening to everybody and reviewing the numbers, when you say it's a 50% increase, you know, that sounds like a lot in 1 year. Of course, that is a lot in 1 year. But I think you have to look at that in like a 5 or a 10-year period. What has the increase been? I don't have that answer. I'm sure Sally does, or maybe you people do. But I don't think they have received the funding that they needed over the past, whatever, 5 or 10 years. And obviously, they desperately need it. I think our family goes there probably at least once a week. And it's always full. It's a very, yes, it's a little crowded, but it's so utilized for our town. That is our town center. You know, we have no town center, so that's it. And they really, really could use the funds. So, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
My name is Suzanne Giacovino. My husband just spoke a minute ago. We're on Castleton Road here in town. And I think the piece that I would like to voice is that a library speaks for a community. And when you have a library that's active, that's well supported, you have there's a vitality to that that's really critical to a town. And Raymond is growing. We've been here 8.5 years. We've been on the lake since 1975. But I would urge you to support this increase. It's 50% of so little. This library needs much more than that, much more. They need space. They need support in additional support in terms of staff. There's nowhere to put books anymore. There should be a children's area that is separate. I have to tell you, I was floored last year. We came to a meeting, it must have been in the fall, when you passed the $600,000 salt shed. I'm assuming that was built. I have no argument with that. I'm assuming that it's very much needed, especially it's been a good thing to have, I'm sure, this winter particularly. But then when I learned that the library was given $40,000, the disparity in priorities absolutely floored me. I just was astounded, and I was ready to move. I don't think that a town should neglect their library. It's critical to the community, and it's a community center. I mean, that's the only place that I know of anyway that families gather with their children and have an opportunity to share that time, except in specific events. My grandchildren do love it, and I'm thankful we have it, but I think that it's been grossly underfunded for much too long, and I think it needs to be adequately funded now and in the future.
Thank you. Wayne?
I just want to close by I'd just like to close by saying that most of the problems that I'm listening to with the little organizations in town could be cured easily if we had a grant writing committee in Raymond. There's $40 trillion worth of estates coming on the market in the next 10 years, and we're not ready to get it. We get our share, and I'm willing to help any organization that wants to set up one.
Anybody else care to comment on anything?
Ben Crowder, live at 63 Sloan's Cove Road. I've been running around this town office and this library since I was not old enough to see over the table that was sitting here. I was a patron of that library as a child. Moved here when I was 4. My own kids are 4 now. We go to the library. We've watched that library change and grow from an entirely voluntary organization, staffed by well-meaning volunteers to a professionally run organization, and a community resource center. Raymond doesn't have a community resource center. We don't have a place that's a center for our Raymond Rec Center organization, if we had such a thing, or other community meeting centers. The library is asking for an increase in funds, there's no doubt about that, but there's been many years where the library hasn't asked for any increase in funds, or a very, very small increase in funds. Our funding is an interesting mix, as some of the other groups are here today, of private and public funding, and we do make every effort to secure money for ourselves in order to fund our own bills, but we've received less than 50% of our funding from the town in the past. And the library is a valuable community resource, and I am a trustee now of the library, but I wouldn't have become a trustee of the library if I didn't feel it was important, if I hadn't benefited from myself people that grow up with a sense of community for the town of Raymond are more likely to stay here, are more likely to work here, are more likely to raise a family here. The risk of Raymond becoming a bedroom community where people live and work elsewhere and commute from Raymond is real, and I see it. I live on a road where I don't know a lot of my neighbors, where a lot of them work in Portland or Falmouth or Westbrook or wherever else, and they come home and they go to bed and they get up and they go back to work. On the weekends they go hang out with their friends somewhere else and they don't spend money here. And that sense of community, that's the way that we ensure that people stay here. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Neil Jensen, 315 Meadow Road, and I'm treasurer of Raymond Waterways. I need to check with my president here, Bob. I think we were going to have some printed material about RWPA. We didn't want to extend an already long meeting, but if any of you board members are interested in reading about what RWPA is about, just, there you go. Oh, and if any of you are curious what the furor is about regarding milfoil, we welcome you to come on one of our work days down the river. You don't even have to know how to swim. You get to wade in milfoil up to your waist and find out what the problem is. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. Anybody else? Okay, we'll get together again next Monday, 6:30, to go through the other items. And if there's any questions anybody comes up with in the interim on the budget side, if you send those to me, I'll get those in. We'll get the answers distributed. Other than that,
I move to adjourn.
Thank you all for attending. Meeting's adjourned.